in this building, in this neighborhood, because we are. And each time we convene, it's another layer of our community coming together and spreading our voices, our terms and our terms. And I want to give you an overview about what that will look like today. Now, for folks on the live stream, for folks that hear this later, read this later, they're just going to enjoy themselves. What a great reading, what fantastic intellectuals, what wonderful people. Qué guapo elito. Someone applauded. Let's not make him feel bad. And the joyous part of it, so let's make that clear. People can enjoy this just for the evening that it is and run with it. That's important. However, that's not enough for us. So my name is Tony Diaz de Libro Traficante. I am proud to be the literary curator for the only Latino bookstore in Texas, where during business hours you can walk in, where every second Friday of the month you can come to expect a great show by writers from all over the country, from here, who are telling our stories our way, and where we are building the cutting edge library of our cultura, curriculum guides, but also community. The Latino Bookstore at the Guadalupe Cultural Arts Center in Houston, Texas, right here. If you want to applaud, let's applaud. Aquí in San Antonio. Aquí in San Antonio West Side. San Antonio West Side. And I do want to give a shout out to some of our partners, including Nuestra Palabra, Latino Writers Have to Say. We're actually live streaming this right now. For folks watching this, and it's in the future, no se pongan celosos. It was an awesome event, but you can still share it and post it in your classrooms. You can text it to folks because we want to make sure that this lives in the memory of our gente. And I do want to let you know what else we have coming up. Some of the other parts of this movement, which people might think is just a bookstore. And I do not want to dismiss the work of some of our friends. Resistencia Bookstore in Austin, Casa Ramirez in Houston. We love them very much, but they need more support. They need more funding so that they can be open every day of the week and we can have a whole circle, a network where people go to read their works. Today, the second part of the reading will feature the launch of the BARD of the Borderlands. Yeah. All right. All right. And when we get to that, this is not just the book. Again, people can enjoy just the book, but there's so much more to this. And we'll talk more about that in just a little bit. And we have the three editors with us up here. Let's give them preliminary applause. Kathryn Gillen, Adrianna Santos, and Kathryn Vomero Santos. They get preliminary applause, por favor. And then at the top, we'll have our dear friend, Ito Romo, who in a bit will give him a longer introduction. But I do want to let you know that every second Friday of the month, we do convene. The bookstore is open from 10 to 4 every day of the week, except Sundays. And the next Texas Author Series session will, of course, be the second Friday in October, featuring John. Of course, John is one of our poets here in Houston. He's going to launch his book here. We're going to celebrate his award. Thank you, John. And I have to say this too. I appreciate you so much for many things. You're a wonderful writer, a wonderful person, a great family man. But you support other writers even when it's not the night where the spotlight shines on you. And that is really humbling for me, but also me da algo en el corazón porque nos estamos uniendo. So thank you for doing that. Thank you. And another person just like him is Norma Cantu. We'll be celebrating her book, Chicana Portraits. And that is a book that chronicles 12 Chicanas who changed the world. And that's exciting to have that book here, to have Norma come back. Also, September 14th, our dear friend who's the madrina of the Latino Bookstore, Carmen Tafoya, will be launching her book, Warrior Girl, here at the theater, including about 200 students as well. And our own Araceli Manriquez has written the curriculum guide for that, including the curriculum guide for this book. What does that mean? We are not a commercial enterprise. We are not here to sell you this product. We are here to make sure that our youth have access to cutting edge authors, to instruction, and we want our teachers to get for free these curriculum guides and books and meet these leaders because right here tonight, this is the leading literature class that any university in the country would covet. We want that for the students across the street in the middle school, for the students at the high school, and on a regular basis, that's what's going to go on. So with that book and this book, there will be lesson plans for our teachers to be given away for free. And then in November, the second Friday of November, Araceli is right here, Araceli, and I'm going to ask you to come up in a little bit to talk about those lesson plans, even though you're waving me off, but it's just, no. So you've got about 2 minutes to come up with what you might say a preview. And then the second, so that's October. The second November, the second Friday in November, we're going to have Dr. Jesse Esparza in conjunction with Macri. He's got a book on our history. And then also a Chicana novelist. She's going to be bringing her book to share with us, Alma Garcia. And then the last reading of the year will be in conjunction with the exhibit Refusing to Forget, which talks about La Matanza, how the history of our people has been erased. But we're not going to dwell on that because we're sharing it. This is going to be the first non-academic setting for that national level, highly awarded exhibit. And additionally, the second Friday in December, we're going to have some of the organizers and founders, including now the head of University of Texas English Department, John Moran Gonzalez, and Genius Smith Archer Grant recipient, Monica Martinez, will be here as well. So you are experiencing the cutting edge of reading series for any place in the country, and I will argue with whoever says otherwise. So if someone says that's not the case, you send them to us. We'll put them on our radio show, and we'll debate it in person, and we're going to win. So enough fighting. No more fighting. Para que no vamos a pelear más. Yeah, no. I would like Araceli to come up and give us a preview of the curriculum guide that she's written for the BARD of the Borderlands. Araceli, we didn't really quite plan this, but you'd be kind enough to indulge us. Por favor.
Hola, buenas noches, buenas tardes. Hello. No, I'm really excited to be a part of this and have read these awesome stories here, The Bard in the Borderlands, and have created a couple of lesson plans for whatever you teach in high school and can be adapted through the TEKS, and whether you teach Mexican American studies or reading or literature. We have bilingual lesson plans here for all of you, and thank y'all for sharing this time and experiment with me. And got some students here, lovely Emmy, who also helped me with some of the plans. And so thank you all for being here. Yeah, can you stand up, my students, por favor? Emmy, Olive, por favor. My counselor, Ms. Barajas, she's too awesome, but okay, let's see.
But I need to put you on the spot. Can the students stand up again, please? Please stand up. We're doing this for you. We're doing this for you. This is your cultura. This is your community. So proud of you coming here tonight. And we've got a full range of ages and educational levels, and that is beautiful. That's what we bring you. On that note, I know y'all want to get to the reading. I had to do a few commercials. I do want to introduce the first reader, Ito, dear friend who I've known for so long, a very incredible reader, an incredible professor, but also very giving and a great writer as well. We're celebrating tonight the softcover edition of his book, The Border is Burning. I do want to say one thing. I do want to say one thing. He's very wonderful to join us tonight. Now, the book, because of supply chain issues, is not available tonight. I know. Tough business. Tough business. A gasp comes. However, however, we appreciate you joining us to celebrate and mark this occasion. We will have, Ariel has some of the order forms in at the counter. We will take some pre-order forms, and I want to tell you something that once the books arrive, you will be the first to get your copies. We will invite Ito back to sign them, and we will have those in stock as well. But I love that we are among the first to be able to present that to you. And whenever you come after that, you know that Stan en Casa and Ito's book is here. And he is a legend across the nation. I don't know if you take en el país, es un país grande, no es pequeñito, es un país grande. So he's from your own backyard, so sometimes we take for granted our own. Tonight, he will thrill. He will thrill the Latino bookstore. It is a pleasure and honor to have him. Please welcome Ito Romo.
I'm not really sure I can live up to the hype, but I thank you very much, and I thank you very much for being here this afternoon. Pardon me, I have some sinus problems, and I took a medication before I came in. It makes me a little loopy. I don't mean Guadalupe. Sorry, I know that was a terrible joke. I am really honored to be here tonight. I have a long history with the Guadalupe Cultural Arts Center. In the early 90s, I had an art studio here where I painted. And I've also served on the board for the Guadalupe Cultural Arts Center for many years. Not anymore, but I did a lot of that. So I'm very honored to be here. I'm also very honored to open for my new dear friend. So we have a round of applause for the editors. Thank you. And of course, thank you to Tony. I'm going to read one story from the book. Oh, I have one more thing to say. When I found out that the paperback wasn't going to be ready for today, of course, I got disappointed, but I've been playing this game for a really long time. It's hacer de tripas corazón, right? I think that's the saying my mother taught me. And so I've decided if you come back and purchase one of the books, you'll get one of these buttons as a gift with purchase. How's that? Sure. I try not to talk too much about my work because then I put on my professor's hat and that's not what I'm doing. So I'll just read the story to you. Killer dog. The next day, his dog was dead. He was driving home from the supermarket where he'd gone to buy dog food because he'd run out that morning. He lived on the outskirts of the ritzy neighborhood Los Alamos, even shared the same last two digits of the zip code with the rich folk and the ritzy supermarket, but that's as far as it went. He lived in the poorer section, the one close to services, dry cleaners, all-night diners, the apartments for the university students, car wash slash garage slash oil change places, the back entrance to the country club. But when he fed the dog in the morning, he heard the last few chunks clink into the metal bowl. He remembered he needed more dog food. He needed dog food on his way back home from work, from the house, as he drove in front of the supermarket. When he turned the corner a few feet from his house, there was his dog, Nelson, in the middle of the street, jumping on two women. Both screamed frantically. One of them fell to the ground and flicked a big lighter at the dog's face over and over as if to defend herself. That damn dog attacked us. Your damn dog attacked us, she yelled at him. She'd seen him get out of his car to get the dog in the house. Call the cops, yelled one of them. T-shirt pulled up, belly exposed, pants so tight they had chafed around her waist like a belt. Just call them on your cell, Gracie. 911, she yelled to the other. Then to him, that damn dog of yours attacked us. But he's a puppy. He was just playing with you. He looks big, but really he's just a puppy. Puppy my ass. I'm telling you, he's a puppy. I have his papers if you want to see how old he is. Did he bite you? No, of course not. You think that huge dog wouldn't have been able to bite you if he wanted to? Just call the cops, Gracie. Sue him. Sue me? The dog didn't even do anything to you. What do you mean? He threw me down. But you're not hurt. Look at you. You're fine. Look, mister, we're calling the cops. Just keep your damn killer dog away from us. Killer dog away from you? He's already inside the house in the backyard. The cops came. Two of them. One of them played with the dog in the backyard. Ma'am, the dog's just a puppy, and he seems like a really nice dog. I don't know why the cop has to speak that way, but he does. I don't care. He attacked us. Officer, he didn't attack them. He jumped on them like he jumped on you when you went back there. He's just a puppy. I saw it all. I was driving back from the groceries. I saw it happen right there in the middle of the street. Yes, he did jump on her, but not in a bad way. He was just playing. When I saw what was going on, I parked the car on the curb. Look, right there. And I called the dog. He came right to me, but she was already on the pavement. I went to help her, and I went to help her after I put the dog in the house. He's a year and a half. He's a puppy and a sweet dog, but he started jumping the chain link fence 2 or 3 days ago, and I didn't want to have to tie him up. Well, you should. He could have killed me. Ma'am, I'm, pardon me. Ma'am, ma'am, I'm very sorry, and I'll file a report if you'd like me to. But I played with the dog, and I can't imagine him trying to hurt you. Go ahead, write him the report. You're going to give him a ticket? Man, he's got a collar and he's got a tag. It wasn't like he was walking him without a leash or anything. The dog jumped over the fence. Well, can you give him a ticket? No, ma'am, I can't, but I'll write up the complaint. Good, write him up. Write him up good, real good. The cop looked at him and rolled his eyes. The next day, his dog was dead. All around the yard, in the grass, the dog had scratched these trenches as if it had been digging frantically from pain. The two women had come back in the middle of the night and stealthily thrown a poisoned T-bone in the backyard. He found the chewed, fleshy bone by the chain link fence between the yard and the driveway. He called the city to find out what to do with the dog's body, and the woman who took his call seemed nice, even consoling. She told him that he should put the dog's body in front of the house in a box, and that workers would pick the dog up that very afternoon. It was strange to place the dog for pickup on the sidewalk as if he were trash, as if it were trash day. That's when he finally cried over the phone to the woman from city services. The dog was heavy, dead. It was hard to get him into the air conditioner box he'd stored in the garage earlier that summer when he switched out the busted window unit in the living room. He took the old air conditioner out of the box and pushed it into a corner where it'd be out of the way until bulky item collection day the following month. Then he'd take it out to the curb, just like his dog, for pickup. He had a hard time getting the dog's body in. He had to turn the box on its side and slide the dog in. When he finally did, he flipped the box upright and dragged it to the front of the house. The dog was stiff already, and his legs stuck out the top. He had to push them down and close the flaps and weigh them down with a broken brick he'd used to prop open the garage door. He guessed the dog had been dead most of the night, and it was already noon. 2 weeks later, there was a huge thunderstorm, and the house's old wiring blew a fuse. He had gone home for Labor Day weekend to see his family in the valley, and when he returned late that Monday night, the whole house smelled of rotting flesh. In the fridge, a brisket his mom had given him had spoiled in its plastic vacuum bag. The plastic wrapper had expanded like a balloon and popped. He wet a towel and held it over his face, his nose, and his mouth. The smell was so bad. He pulled the meat out, dumped it into a trash bag, and shook a box of baking soda into the freezer before shutting the door. His mom had packed a giant piece of meat and ice for him so carefully, frozen solid for several days. Even bought a $3.99 styrofoam cooler from the Walmart so he could bring it back with him. He did. He couldn't imagine eating so much meat. He remembered thinking he'd feed it to the dog. He'd figured he'd put the meat out on the curb with the trash like he did every Sunday night, right where he had placed Nelson's box not 2 weeks before. But when he walked back to the front door from the curb, he could still smell the rotting meat. He was sure his neighbors could smell it too. Windows now open to a rare South Texas breeze, he was sure the smell was wafting into their home. So instead, he carried the slab of meat back to the back of the house on a shovel. Then he dug a hole in the far back corner of the backyard to bury the brisket. He imagined the neighbors peeking out their windows, sniffing, smelling the rotting meat, and imagining he killed somebody, dismembered the victim, and was now disposing the body in pieces. He dug deep. 3 days later, off work at noon, he went to the backyard and pulled a hose from under the wooden steps that led up to the kitchen door to rinse away the huge puddle of blood the dog had left on the floor of his wooden shed where he'd found his body bleeding at both ends. He sprinkled Ajax unceremoniously over the pool of blood that had already set, dark and hard around the edges. He hosed it down. He scrubbed with the edges. He scrubbed at the edges with what was left of an old broom the dog used to chew on. Thank you.
Wow. And that is how it's done. Así. ¿Verdad? No. Mira, así de guapo, con ese talento. I'm glad we stole you from Hollywood. You know, and I'm glad you're using those skills to thrill us in our community. I do want to remind you, um, the book isn't here in person. We have the author. I would encourage you to get the pre-order form. Why? Because it tells the publishers that we care about the book, and that packs a punch. Also, you get your pre-signed copy. Also, he can sign it for you. You put that inside the book, and really, what you're taking home to your family library right now, as libraries are being attacked, as bookstores are being attacked, as curriculums are being attacked, you are taking home voices in one place that we still run, your family library, and you're making sure that those voices continue. And you're taking a story because then you'll get to say, this is the night that I chatted with Ito. The book wasn't there, but look, I have it now and I support it as well. And a free button on top of it, ¿verdad? So thank you for adding that. I do want to thank our sponsors. I do want to acknowledge awesome poet laureate of San Antonio y Tejas, Lorian Guerrero. What's up? What's going on? Thank you for coming. You can pick up her books here, get them signed as well. What a night. That's awesome. And I want to give a shout out now to some of the sponsors as well, including the City of San Antonio, Department of Arts and Culture, the Ford Foundation, the Mellon Foundation, Texas Commission for the Arts, Gemini Inc., Nuestra Palabra, Latino Writers Having to Say. I want to give a shout out to Rodrigo Bravo, who's our sound engineer and a big part of Nuestra Palabra as well. So you got Houston and San Antonio uniting for this because then we share it over there and then we tell them, hey, look what's going on in San Antonio. You need to repeat that. And then the idea then is it keeps building, it keeps percolating. Uh, Next up, I'm not going to steal too much of their thunder. I'm so excited about the Bard of the Borderlands. I'm so glad that they kidnapped Shakespeare and are never giving him back again. But I do want to put it in this context. Yes, take home the book. Um, and it's not just the book because we're convening, we're building community. The book is available as an electronic version for free, right? For free, giving it away. I should point out that through a grant to Congressman Joaquin Castro, we're able to pay Araceli to write the lesson plans and give them away. So the lesson plan for this is means that a high school teacher can get the book for free electronically, get the lesson plans for free, and we're going to start planning some high school visits as well. That's not common. Yeah, we should applaud that because that's not typical. So many of us coming together to support the West Side. And additionally, I do want to say one thing though. Buy the book. Because at the end of the day though, would people be trying to take these away from you if they were not powerful? Would there be forces at work to erase these if these were not powerful? And we're the ones convincing our youth, some of whom we convinced that reading and writing don't matter. We're convincing them otherwise. And one way to do that is put a book in their hands or introduce them to giant intellectuals. On that note, I preach, they thrill you. Please welcome, we're going to have Kathryn introduce the whole lineup. It's about to get thrilling. Thank you, Kathryn. Por favor.
Thank you. Thank you, Tony. Um, we really couldn't think of a better place to launch than the Latino Bookstore because this book really comes from within Borderlands communities and it celebrates the art that Borderlands residents make. We celebrate stories and history, and the three of us are lucky enough to live and teach here in San Antonio. Thank you, Iko. You are not our opener. We are honored to share this space with you. And I just want to say that I got my university library's copy of The Border is Burning, thinking that I would buy the paperback and have Iko sign it today. I thought it was once when I just read that, and then I read the whole thing. So thank you. They're really, really gripping and beautifully crafted stories. So we have so many people to say because I saw this room fill up. My list kept getting longer. So thank you all really for being here. Thank you to our families and friends who are supporting us while we were working on this project. We spent most of our time on Zoom, despite the fact that we live in the same city. So our families are aware of how much time we put into this project. And it really is a project that came from our teaching. It was inspired by our students, and Kate will say a little bit more about that, but we want to thank them first and foremost. And the reason I got really emotional is that three of my students are in the room. Three students who have graduated, so they're not my students anymore. But Sarah Pita is in the room, and Kaylee Avila is in the room. And the reason I want to bring them up is that Trinity has this amazing summer undergraduate research fellowship program where students get to work directly with their professors, and they were the first cohort of Fellow Fellows, and they actually transcribed some of the also in the room is Adrianna M, who is not my student anymore, and she is an incredible master of social media. So if you follow us on social media, you have Adrianna. We also want to thank, we want to thank Araceli for we're really excited about what this is coming up with students and students. Legal, I don't know. Thank you for all of your for this conversation. We want to thank Christina Valley from the Guadalupe Art Center, as well as Alma and Maya at the Latino Bookstore. We want to thank Jay, our photographer, who's been documenting this event, and we'll share these photos with anybody who would like to have them. And then you'll have a chance to hear from her momentarily, but I just want to call attention to the fact that Celeste de Luna is here. She made our beautiful cover. Isn't it just magnificent? It is so beautiful. And she'll tell you more about it, but you have an opportunity to support her work. So as I mentioned, this project is to honor Borderlands art. And the three of us noticed that there was a tradition of artists from all across the Borderlands who were adapting Shakespeare to tell stories of and for La Frontera. But what we also noticed is that these plays had never been published. They were largely written for community theaters, and they weren't intended to be published or given the resources to be published, and we thought we should do something about it. So we started pulling together this anthology, and we were lucky enough to find a publisher in the Arizona Center for Medieval and Renaissance Studies, A&M Press, whose mission is to publish all of their books open access, because they believe that there should not be a barrier to knowledge, and we believe that too. So yes, let's give a hand for A&M Press. In the back of the room over there, we have some postcards where you can scan it to the URL. When this project started, we had about 8 plays, and now we have 14 plays. So the Bard in the Borderlands went from 1 volume to 3. What we've published so far is volume 1. And volume 1 features plays that adapt and appropriate and translate Romeo and Juliet and Hamlet. Those plays are probably the most commonly taught plays, but I think they also really lend themselves to thinking about Borderlands history and stories, and you'll hear a little bit about them. Volumes 2 and 3 offer takes on a much wider range of plays. Volume 2 focuses on comedies and tragic comedies, and Volume 3 focuses on a series of kind of futuristic punk queer takes on Shakespeare. So there's something for everyone in the Bard in the Borderlands. When I mentioned that we couldn't think of a better place than the Latino Bookstore to launch this book, I was thinking primarily of the final section of our introduction. And one of the things that we think we offer as scholars is a critical framework that honors the aesthetic contributions of these plays and the traditions that they come from, because these traditions are not originating from Shakespeare. They are originating from Chicano theater, from the farm workers movement, and you'll hear a little bit more about that. But they're also aligned with ongoing activist work around literacy and culture. So I'm going to read from a section called Pedagogy, Politics, and Possibilities. Our writing of this introduction coincided with the 10th anniversary of the founding of the Libros Traficantes, a group of educators, activists, and scholars whose mission was to smuggle banned books to students in the wake of Arizona State House Bill 2281. Permanently blocked in 2017 after a 7-year court battle, this law attempts to stifle the success of Mexican American Studies, the Mexican American Studies program in the Tucson Unified School District by banning ethnic studies curricula. As Houston-based scholar, cultural critic, and leader of the Libros Traficantes, Tony Diaz notes, this legislation represented a backlash against educational approaches designed to affirm Mexican Americans and Latinxes more broadly. Quote, "It's clear to me that our intellectual advancement is a threat to some people because they tried to make it illegal."
Such efforts to deny students opportunities to learn about their cultures and identities are neither new nor a relic of the past. They are part of a long legacy of anti-immigrant and white supremacist racism, which has escalated once again in recent decades, in recent years and months for that matter. In Texas, for example, laws prohibiting educators in public schools from teaching the full history of systemic racism and its social impacts. Sorry, I skipped a line. In Texas, for example, backlash to recently approved ethnic studies curricula has led to censorship and laws prohibiting educators in public schools from teaching the full history of systemic racism and its social impacts. It was worth repeating. Efforts to whitewash history and marginalize non-white stories are a very real and present threat. As several news outlets covering the fallout of HB 2281 emphasize in their headlines, Shakespeare's The Tempest was among the texts removed from the curriculum in Tucson. Quote, Shakespeare loomed large throughout this episode, writes Ruben Espinosa, as critics of the law clung to the bard's iconic status to criticize the misguided nature of the legislation. As Espinosa has argued, the outsized emphasis on the apparent absurdity of banning Shakespeare, the canonical Anglophone author par excellence, detracted attention from the educational experiences of Mexican American students and the value of Mexican American literature. It assumed that Shakespeare was somehow an outlier in the list of the books removed from Tucson classrooms. This response is indicative of the whiteness that often surrounds Shakespeare and the reception of his works. Indeed, because Shakespeare's work has been used as a tool of assimilation and gatekeeping in education for centuries, it often carries fraught associations for Latinx students. Both material and perceived, these tensions inform what Espinosa theorizes as a Shakespeare-Latinx divide, wherein Shakespeare is positioned as a representative of white Anglo-centric culture, and Latinxes are imagined as its antithesis, if they are imagined at all. In this context, Latinxes are perceived to have difficulty reading and comprehending Shakespeare, and as Espinosa writes, quote, attitudes about Shakespeare's place in the establishment of English linguistic and cultural identity certainly drive these views. The presence of The Tempest in the Tucson Mexican American Studies curriculum, however, does less to reinscribe Shakespeare's canonical status and association with whiteness than it does to reflect a long tradition of engagement with Shakespeare by residents of the US-Mexico borderlands. The forms of colonialism, enslavement, and linguistic domination dramatized in The Tempest resonate with many of the concerns addressed in other texts taught in ethnic studies courses. But, as Espinosa argues, and as the plays in the Bard in the Borderlands attest, Borderlands engagements with Shakespeare also transcend The Tempest to consider a range of Shakespeare's works in relation to Borderland stories, songs, and other art forms. We see this anthology as part of the longstanding effort to affirm such responses and to teach Borderlands literature, histories, and cultural traditions. This edition honors and endeavors to extend the community-based efforts from which Borderlands Shakespeare has arisen. We therefore see this open access anthology as an invitation, and we hope that it will encourage robust engagement among readers, teachers, students, scholars, activists, artists, and theater practitioners as we continue to explore the intersections of Shakespeare and Borderlands art. We hope that it fosters future collaborations that destabilize the artificial boundaries often separating universities, community colleges, high schools, and community arts organizations, opening space for dialogue and shared learning. We look forward to continuing the work of building the field of Borderlands Shakespeare Studies and sustaining art, theater, and storytelling in the region and beyond. Adelante. Thank you. So now I'm going to invite my friend and colleague, Adrianna Santos, to tell you more about it.
Hi, I'm so excited. Half this room is my familia. Gracias. Thank you for coming. Oh my gosh, this is like a total dream for me. I appreciate it. My exposure to Shakespeare growing up as a young, like public school attendee was, of course, Romeo and Juliet, right? And that's what we all have to read our freshman year of high school. And then when I was a senior, I got to play Lady Capulet in a production at my high school. So now I have come full circle back to the Bard in the Borderlands. I'm so grateful to have worked on this text with my amazing co-editors. And I'd like to read a little bit to you also from the introduction, but this is about a specific through line of Chicano teatro to these Shakespeare adaptations. And then I'll read to you a little bit from one of the plays. The tradition of Borderlands Shakespeare has given rise to collaborations among diverse artists with personal connections to the region. Many, but not all, of the playwrights collected in this anthology are border residents or have Chicanx or indigenous heritage themselves. While they often have classical theater training, these playwrights are also rooted in Latinx and indigenous performance traditions and practices. In particular, Borderlands Shakespeare is influenced by El Teatro Campesino, founded by Luis Valdez in 1965 on the picket lines of the Delano Grape Strike in Delano, California. This theatrical wing of the United Farm Workers Union made specific use of actos, short scenes performed on flatbed trucks and in union halls. The actos were often performed by farm workers, and they caricatured foremen, landowners, and corrupt politicians in an effort to bring attention to injustices in the fields. As David Roman argues, El Teatro Campesino became central to the political work of El Movimiento as Chicanxes, quote, reformulated their sense of identity from one of oppression and victimization to one of resistance and survival, end quote. As other teatros have developed in the spirit of El Teatro Campesino, Borderlands Shakespeare appropriations have become part of this radical activist tradition. So with that in mind, I'm going to read to you a little bit from the tragic corrido of Romeo and Lupe, which takes place in Far, Texas. This was commissioned in Far for the community theater there, and 2018, Kate and I went to see it and were just blown away by this amazing production. It was bilingual, about 50% English, 50% Spanish. It was an incredible production, and we were so excited to begin to anthologize these plays. This starts at, the part that I'm going to read starts at a party. Anybody here from the Valley? All right, so you might know that they have these large traditional like parties to celebrate the Magic Valley. And this is where one of these happened. It's the birthday of the Magic Valley, right? So the landowner, Mr. Campbell, addresses the crowd. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank everybody for traveling such a long way down to discover the magic of our valley. Welcome to this year's party and fashion show, celebrating the birthday of our beautiful Magic Valley. It's an enchanting night. The moon sets high over our beautiful palm trees, looming over our rich harvests. Cotton, cane, grapefruit, carrot, broccoli, you name it. A life of prosperity awaits you here. That same life of ensured liberty and prosperity that the founding fathers of our republic envisioned. Tranquility for your family and the promise of never-ending growth. Once again, I want to thank everybody and give a big round of applause for our beautiful models. And instead of the models that are originally meant to come out, a group of protesters come out with signs, and this is what they say. This valley here is a grapefruit. Anywhere you make a cut, the nectar from the land spills out like an open wound. You cut deep into it and you drain it of its soul. Sister, where were you? I was hungry and wandering when I saw a woman eating grapes. I told her, please give me one for my child. She said, go away, your feet are muddy and I despise your stare. Mr. Campbell screams, what is this? Security! The model says, I saw her husband sucking on a sugar cane like a thumb. All the time he cries, I want more. And all the models band together and chant, we do not want your segregation, your discrimination, your dreams. Esta tierra no te quiere aquí. This is not your Magic Valley. This is the RGV. This is not your Magic Valley. This is the RGV. Thank you. I hope I mentioned the author. I'm going to do it again in case I forgot. Ceres Jaime Magaña. And I also want to bring up somebody very, very important to the Borderlands Shakespeare Colectiva, someone I'm so proud to know, someone whose work I admire so much, who is from the Valley, Celeste de Luna. She is an artist, a printmaker. She's originally from the Lower Rio Grande of South Texas, and her work includes large-scale woodcut prints and fabric installation, one of which you can see pictured here. She currently lives here in San Antonio and works out of her home studio, Metzli Press, and teaches at Northwest Vista College. So I'd like to bring her up just for a minute to talk about.
Thank you so much for having me. I want to thank all the authors for inviting me to be part of this event. I'm really proud of this cover. I'll just talk a little bit about how we made it. We did it together as a collaboration. They talked about their concept and idea. If you look at the cover, you can see it looks kind of like a mano poderoso. I also had in mind this idea of, was it Macbeth, out damn spot. And so like the idea of this hand that was originally from Macbeth being something that was maybe a bit tainted becomes a more healing image around it. There's other images of cotton balls, I don't know, cotton balls, which is, you know, one of the crops you'd find in the valley. La Virgen. We did an image of Coyochauqui, the moon. The moon is an important symbol because of my name. It's my real name. And there's a poinsettia. So when you purchase the book, please enjoy. And if you'd like, come by my table afterwards. There are original prints of they were so generous in commissioning me not only to make a cover, but to create real world prints. Printmaking, book covers, bookmaking all have a really important connection in the literary arts. And I love to see real, you know, textured hard copy pieces of art out there that are connected to community artists and not AI. So, so thank you.
Thank you so much, Celeste. Isn't it amazing? Please check out her work as well. Just such a wonderful body of work. It's so good as well to see so many teachers and colleagues here in the room. As Katie mentioned, one of our motivations for compiling and editing the plays in the Bard in the Borderlands was to make these works more accessible to teachers and students. We started teaching them ourselves, and we saw how powerfully they resonated in the classrooms. And every time we talked about them, people would ask us, well, how do I get that? And we would say, well, I guess you can ask the playwrights and we'll try to email you a PDF. So we would do that. But then we thought, wouldn't it be wonderful to have the plays compiled, to have them easily accessible, both in print and open access forms? So we talk a little about that in the introduction. Indeed, the Bard in the Borderlands arises from our own teaching of Shakespeare and Mexican American literature in the Borderlands. Through conversations with students and fellow teachers in the region and beyond, we recognize the need not only to make Borderlands Shakespeare plays available in print and digital formats, but also to offer an accessible critical framework through which to understand the complex work that they do. As Borderlands playwrights reimagine Shakespeare to reflect their identities and concerns, their plays give students the tools to interrogate Shakespeare's cultural place, to interpret his works in conversation with their lived experiences, and to create their own artistic responses to canonical works of literature. Teaching Borderlands Shakespeare opens space for thinking critically with students
about how we can best serve our communities when we teach, produce, or adapt Shakespeare, and how we can do so in ways that avoid replicating colonialist and white supremacist ideologies. To invoke the work of the Libro Trapicantes, once again, Borderlands Shakespeare provides a means of smuggling Chicanx and Indigenous literature and history into increasingly surveilled educational spaces. I have learned so much from speaking with my own students about Borderlands Shakespeare and the work that it does, and students are bringing so much important experience to these plays and to our understandings of them. And I am very grateful to have a former student here, Ariel Alvarez, who is part of the Latino Bookstore team, and she has graciously agreed to read her poem, The Monstrous Feminine, which is inspired, yes, give her a round of applause. Yes, it's inspired by Lady Macbeth and some connections between Lady Macbeth and La Llorona, and also engages with some of the attacks on women's reproductive rights here in Texas. So thank you so much, Ariel.
Hello. Yes, I want to speak a little bit to the experience of having intersectional Shakespeare and kind of revisiting these bodies of work in our modern context. It was really fun to kind of explore, and there were so many amazing creative projects that I wish could all be with us here today. And of course, we'll see a lot more of that with the curriculums and with this book being published. So it's just a small drop in the ocean, I feel. I have a little bit. Yes, so we saw plays that were pulling from Lady Macbeth, so I really resonated with the themes of violence and bloodlust and this compulsive power that it feels like men are only okay to exercise for themselves. And of course, in the summer after I came back from being online, most of my college experience due to COVID, that was the summer after Roe versus Wade was overturned. So yes, it created a definite kind of shift in the way that we think about women's protection and their privacy, and of course their access to necessary care in many areas. So the monstrous feminine is kind of taking this idea of gender roles and expectations and flipping them into, maybe we're villainized a lot of the time, especially in this country. So the monstrous feminine. What can be said for monstrous women, misbehaved, unmatriarched, unwed, and underestimated, unsexed and entangled from their wombs, in their place rotten fruit, forbidden fate, and too many mistakes to let them be great? A Lady Macbeth in lessons of men who were always meant to be betrayed. Women who play it safe never see the light of day. To be made a villain because we do not want to be mothers or responsible for another generation of people whom our nurturing cannot save. On a planet where our choice is banished, where we have to abort babies in our closets alone and quiet, while it is our own body we have to riot. How can we not fight this violence with violence? Our words and soliloquies against bar cells for unwanted pregnancies? To be a monstrous woman is to be a fiend-like queen. To hear things in the night and visions of guilt because of what you can see above our knees. So call to darkness when the moment demands, and for your babe, release him in the drown, or pluck them from your nipple with his boneless gums and bash the brains out and mourn, if only but for the life of freedom that this world cannot afford. It seems our humanity is tied to our benevolence, never the value of our person. In each interaction, a mirror of characters we are supposed to be: a daughter, a sister, a friend, a perpetual lover, a wife, or a mother. But life is going on, and we cannot ask to be these things. If you cut me open today, my veins will scream. I want to be burned to ashes, so no one can remember how they wanted to touch me. Spending my entire existence as a commodity, the memory of me should be fear and infamy, a power that exorcised me out of my female body. Only in death can we see this respect for spiritual authority and a taste of true autonomy. So then connect back to your monstrosity and embrace the beast that has built too many kings.
she amazing? She's so wonderful. Thank you so much. Oh, and Lorianne. Come to Texas A&M San Antonio. Thank you so much. That was brilliant. And we are thrilled that our collaboration with Tony and Nuestra Palabra and Araceli is helping us get lesson plans and books into schools, into school libraries. Really, I know she talked about it, but Araceli's lesson plan is brilliant. She has come up with really engaging, innovative questions and activities for students at all stages of the kind of reading and writing and exploration process. And she's doing it not just for English language arts contexts, but also thinking about Spanish language context, social studies, Mexican American studies. She even has some activities around science and art and social emotional learning. So it's really brilliant. And I think she really helps see and really show how interdisciplinary this project is and can be. And these lesson plans too, as with everything the Colectiva does, is a community-based project. So we're hoping to crowdsource some more lesson plans to house on our website. So if you do teach the plays in whatever context you're in and are interested in working with us to develop what you have, the resources you're using for your classes into lesson plans that we can share more broadly, please be in touch and let us know, because we're excited to keep this movement going. We're also doing a workshop next Wednesday, the 13th, with Humanities Texas, which will be a webinar. It will be online. It's open to teachers, so we welcome many of you there. So thank you all so much. We might have a couple more. Do we have a couple more announcements about just our hashtag? Okay. Conference, yes, good. So follow us on social media. Ariana is doing amazing work. The hashtag is Borderlands Shakes, SHAX. We have some stickers back there, so please grab one. We're also having a conference in March 7th through the 9th. So please consider submitting something. If you have ideas for a talk or a paper or anything that you'd like to present, please consider the CFP is open online, and there's a link to it in the materials back there, or you'll see it on social media. And yeah, come join us, hear more people talk about Borderlands Shakespeare, and more continues to be produced. So I know many of y'all in the audience might be working on things too, and so we're excited to see where this goes. So thank you all so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
That was awesome. A few things on behalf of the Libro Traficantes, the co-founders, Ryan Paras, Liana Lopez, Lupe Mendez, Laura Costa. Thank you so much for the honor of including us in the book and for uniting us as part of this new movement, which you're all part of now, which we carry with us and spread at so many levels. And as I introduce our final speaker, who is the director of this wonderful facility, I want to make something clear. This space can adapt to North American debuts. Was this your first reading? North American debut of Ariel. But don't let this beautiful moment pass you by. Look at how many folks that were instructors for that awesome talent that are in the room. We cannot take that for granted. And Nuestra Palabra, before we had to smuggle books, we would do readings, but it was always not just the published writers, but to bring in new voices. So that's incredible. But we can only do that in this space that has room for arts, which includes music and history, visual art. So please do support by buying, but we can only do that. And we mentioned many threads. So the Latino Bookstore exists only because it's part of the Guadalupe Cultural Arts Center, and our director is able to understand how community works, but how national funding works, and bring those things together. So please welcome the director of the Guadalupe Cultural Arts Center and the genius behind the Latino Bookstore, Cristina Bailly, por favor.
I'll make this short and quick because I know everybody just wants to get on with the weekend and have a good time and reflect on everything that you just heard here. Woo, it's my phone. Whoa, look at that. Dog training podcast. I'm thinking of getting a dog. So that's what happens when you put your phone in your pocket. Anyway, we were talking about literature and borders work. I'm very happy to be here with all these wonderful authors and educators promoting the Borderlands, the work of the Borderlands, that we're all in the Borderlands. I'm from Brownsville, Texas, so I'm happy to always be hearing about the work going on in the border. Ito, here's the literary program. Remember how Ito was on our board of directors of the Guadalupe Cultural Arts Center, and we had said we were going to get this bookstore up and running. It took a while because the building had to be built first. It had to be retrofitted. It had to be renovated. But it was going to take us a little while, but here we are, here we are now. The store is still a work in progress. We are adding to the library. We are having the series, the author series, every second Friday of the month, and that allows us to add more and more books to be on sale here at the store. And like Tony said, this is all part of the Guadalupe Cultural Arts Center. In case some of you don't know, I just kind of have two announcements for the Guadalupe Center. In case you don't know, the Guadalupe Theater across the street is going to be shutting down pretty soon for a major renovation. We just received $3.5 million to renovate the theater. So we are completing a master plan. People don't know that we own and manage 9 properties up and down the street, and including the Guadalupe Theater. And we will start renovating the theater next of all the buildings that we have. So the theater will be closed for maybe up to 2 years. It's going to be a long time, but, hopefully it won't be that long. But, we're going to try to hurry up and get it done as soon as possible, but it's going to be for a good reason. It's going to be a new and improved theater to showcase our art and culture, and a lot of our teatro as well. That we have a lot of teatro here. And then I just want to make one more little commercial. Encourage everybody to, if you have an opportunity, to donate blood with the South Texas Blood and Tissue Center. We are partnering with them on a campaign during Hispanic Heritage Month. They have a program where they give points to their donors that they can exchange for t-shirts and mugs and goodies and things like that. And many of the donors are not motivated by those gifts. Instead, they like to donate that cash back to another nonprofit. So for Hispanic Heritage Month, the Blood Bank is partnering with the Guadalupe Cultural Arts Center, encouraging their donors to donate their points to the Guadalupe. So they're able to double their impact. They're able to help the community by donating their blood, which is much needed out there. I just learned that the biggest, most recipients of blood are cancer patients. So, we all know that sometimes we are in need, our families are in need, and we will be holding a blood drive here in this room. I hope we're going to protect the floors. And here in this room on October 7th. On October 7th, that is a Saturday, and you'll be receiving notices, encouraging people to sign up to come give some blood and double your impact in that way. You're helping in 2 major ways, your community. So thank you for being here. I'm glad you're here. And Celeste, thank you for being here. Good to see you here. And all of you, enjoy enjoy your weekend. Enjoy the many programs that are coming down the line this fall. Hispanic Heritage Month. There's lots going on everywhere. And I hope to see you here in a month from now in the next author series. So, gracias.
Thank you for your vision and leadership, Christina. And y'all were a great audience. So did you enjoy yourself? Did you enjoy yourself? That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you. So let's seal the deal now. We look forward to commiserating with, you get a chance to get your picture taken with Ito and get your pre-order sign and free button. Also, the 3 editors of The Bard in the Borderlands, and get your copy signed today. And if you can buy it in the room next door, I want to thank our team, Ariel, Maya, and then who's Alma. Alma does all the hard work. Que malo. Que malo. Yes. Please. Alma does all the hard work. So Alma, I love you, Alma.
I feel like I forgot to thank people, and if I forgot to thank any more people, just remind me. But I do want to thank Dr. Elena Faules, who is a brilliant professor of Spanish and has been helping us with the Spanish. Many of these plays are truly bilingual, so I just wanted to acknowledge her contributions. And I also wanted to acknowledge Jesus Montaño, who has just moved to Baylor, and so he's back in his home state of Texas. But you should pay attention to his work, because he's writing a book called Young Latinx Shakespeare, in which he's talking about young adult authors like Guadalupe Garcia McCall and Joaquin Jimenez. So you should bring him for your next, when it's out. But anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Great. So we'll let you get in line, and also don't forget to buy some visual art as well. And thank you for coming. Look forward to hanging out. Gracias, and we'll see you next month. Thank you very much.